Hey guys, tonight we're travelling back in time to the quiet and often dangerous roads of the Middle Ages. Our story is called What It Was Like to Be a Medieval Messenger. Before we begin, I have a small favour to ask. Most of you who listen to these videos every night aren't actually subscribed to the channel. You watch the videos, you relax, maybe even fall asleep, but the subscribe button stays untouched. So if you enjoy these slow and peaceful journeys through history, please consider subscribing. Your subscription helps this small channel grow and allows me to keep creating long, relaxing history stories like this one. And before we begin tonight's journey, tell me something interesting. From which city are you listening to this story tonight? Leave a comment below with your city and country. It's always fascinating to see people from all around the world slowly drifting off to sleep while listening to these quiet stories from the past. Now, dim the lights, get comfortable, and let's slowly step back into the Middle Ages. Imagine waking up before sunrise in a small medieval town. The sky is still dark, and the only sounds are the distant crowing of a rooster and the faint crackling of a fire somewhere in the village. The air is cold enough that your breath turns into small clouds as you step outside. Most people are still asleep. The baker has not yet opened his oven. The market stalls are empty, and the narrow dirt roads are quiet. But for one person in the town, the day has already begun. You are a messenger. In the Middle Ages, messages did not travel instantly like they do today. There were no phones, no internet, no quick ways to send information across long distances. Every important message had to be carried by a real person, sometimes on foot, sometimes on horseback, and sometimes through forests, mountains, and lonely roads that could take days to cross. Being a messenger was not a glamorous job. Most people barely noticed you. Yet kings, nobles, merchants, and entire cities depended on people like you. Without messengers, kingdoms would struggle to communicate. Armies would not receive orders. Merchants would not know when shipments arrived, and rulers would not hear news from distant lands. So although the job might seem simple, it carried great responsibility. On this particular morning, you walk toward the town hall. Your boots crunch softly on the frozen ground. The wooden buildings around you are dark and silent. A few thin lines of smoke drift from chimneys. Inside those houses, families are wrapped in blankets, still dreaming in the quiet warmth of their beds. But your day is already moving forward, because somewhere far away, someone is waiting for a message. When you reach the town hall, a small lantern burns beside the door. The guard sitting outside barely looks up as you approach. He knows who you are. Messengers come and go often. Inside the hall, the air smells faintly of wax and parchment. A clerk sits at a wooden desk. He's carefully folding a letter. The parchment is thick and pale, and when he finishes folding it, he presses a small blob of red wax onto the paper. Then he presses a metal seal into the wax. This seal is important. It shows that the letter has not been opened. If the seal breaks before the message reaches its destination, people will know that someone has tampered with it. The clerk looks up at you. Without saying much, he hands you the letter. He tells you where it must go. A castle nearly 2 days away. 2 days on horseback. If the weather stays calm, if the roads remain clear, and if nothing unexpected happens along the way. You nod quietly. Messengers rarely ask many questions. Your job is simple. Take the message, protect it, deliver it. That is all. You carefully tuck the sealed letter into a leather pouch attached to your belt. Outside, the sky is slowly beginning to change colour. A pale grey light spreads across the horizon. Your horse waits near the stable. He's not a magnificent war horse like the ones knights ride into battle. Instead, he is smaller, strong, patient, and used to long journeys. You pat his neck gently. He exhales slowly, sending a warm cloud of breath into the cold morning air. After securing your small bag of supplies, you climb onto the saddle. The village behind you is beginning to wake up. A few doors creak open. Some farmers step outside. A dog barks somewhere in the distance, but within moments, the quiet streets disappear behind you. The road stretches ahead, long, empty, and uncertain. This is the life of a medieval messenger. Most days are filled with travel, hours and hours of steady movement, the sound of hooves on dirt roads, wind brushing against your cloak, and the endless landscape slowly passing by. Some roads are safe, others are not. Bandits sometimes hide along isolated routes. Storms can turn roads into thick rivers of mud, and sometimes the forests themselves seem to whisper strange sounds in the dark. But the message must always arrive, no matter what. As the morning sun finally rises, golden light spills across the fields. Frost sparkles on the grass. Birds begin their soft morning songs, and your horse moves steadily forward. You know the journey ahead will be long, but for now everything feels calm. The road is clear, the air is fresh, and somewhere far away someone is waiting for the message you carry. So you continue riding forward, step by step, mile by mile, into the quiet, unpredictable world of the Middle Ages. The road leaving your small town slowly stretches into the open countryside. Behind you, the wooden houses and narrow streets grow smaller with every step your horse takes. Soon, the familiar sounds of the village disappear completely. No more barking dogs, no more clattering carts, no more voices drifting through the cold morning air. Only the quiet rhythm of your horse's hooves remains. Clip, clop, clip, clop. It is a slow and steady sound that will follow you for many hours today. In the Middle Ages, most roads were not like the smooth highways we know today. Many were little more than dirt paths created by years of travellers passing through the same places. Some roads were wide and busy near large towns, but most of the time they were narrow, winding trails that passed through forests, fields, and hills. As a messenger, you quickly learn that every road has its own personality. Some roads feel friendly and peaceful, others feel lonely and uncertain, and a few feel strangely quiet, as if the land itself is watching you pass. This morning, the road feels calm. The sky above you has turned a soft pale blue. Thin clouds drift slowly across the horizon. Frost still covers the grass beside the road, shining like tiny crystals in the sunlight. Your horse moves at a comfortable pace, not too fast, not too slow. A messenger must protect both the horse and the message. If the horse becomes too tired early in the journey, the rest of the trip becomes much harder. So you let him walk steadily while the morning grows brighter around you. To your left, wide fields stretch across the land. In summer, these fields would be full of crops like wheat and barley, but now they lie quiet and empty. Thin patches of frost cover the dark soil. A few crows sit on wooden fence posts watching the road with curious eyes. They tilt their heads as you pass, then suddenly flap their wings and rise into the cold air. Far ahead, the road bends gently around a small hill. You know from experience that hills often hide surprises. Sometimes it is just another quiet stretch of land. Sometimes it is a group of travellers, and sometimes it is something less pleasant. Bandits occasionally wait along isolated roads like this. They know that messengers often carry letters between towns and castles. Sometimes those letters contain valuable information, and sometimes, if the messenger looks wealthy enough, the bandits assume there may be coins hidden somewhere. But today, the road seems peaceful. As you guide your horse up the hill, you see nothing unusual, just open land and quiet sky. At the top of the hill, you pause for a moment. From here you can see much farther across the countryside. The land rolls gently into the distance like waves frozen in time. Small patches of forest appear here and there, and far away, a thin trail of smoke rises from what might be another village. Medieval messengers spend much of their lives looking at landscapes like this. Endless roads, wide fields, quiet forests. The world moves slowly here, much slower than the busy cities of the future. You take a moment to adjust your cloak. The cold air brushes against your face. Your hands are already a little numb from holding the reins. Winter travel is never easy. But messengers do not get to choose the weather. Messages must travel in sunshine, rain, snow, and wind. The sealed letter resting in your pouch feels heavier than its size suggests. Not physically heavy, but important. Some letters carry simple news. Others carry serious orders. A king might be waiting to hear the results of a distant battle. A merchant might be waiting to learn whether his ships arrived safely. A lord might be sending instructions to his knights. You rarely know exactly what the letters contain. That knowledge is not meant for messengers. Your job is simply to carry the words safely from one place to another, and in many ways, that makes you a silent traveller between different worlds. One day you might ride through peaceful farmland. The next day you might be delivering news to a castle filled with armoured soldiers. The road begins sloping gently downward as you continue forward. Your horse picks up a slightly faster pace. The wind brushes against your cloak again, and the countryside begins to change. The open fields slowly give way to thicker patches of trees. At first, the trees appear scattered across the land. A small oak here, a tall pine there. But gradually, they begin growing closer together. Before long, the road leads toward the edge of a forest. Forests in the Middle Ages could feel very different from the neat parks many people imagine today. These were deep, ancient woods. Some had existed for hundreds of years. Their trees grew tall and twisted. Their branches stretched across the sky like long fingers. And once you entered them, the sunlight often became softer and dimmer. Travellers sometimes felt uneasy when passing through these places, not because the forest itself was dangerous, but because it could hide many things: wild animals, strange travellers, or people who preferred not to be seen. As you approach the forest, the air changes slightly. It becomes cooler. The smell of pine and damp earth fills your nose. Your horse's hooves now strike a softer surface, where fallen leaves and needles cover the ground. The road narrows, the trees lean closer, birds flutter through the branches above you. A squirrel darts quickly across the path and disappears into the undergrowth. Despite the quiet beauty of the forest, you remain alert. Messengers must always stay aware of their surroundings. A snapped branch, a sudden movement, the distant sound of another horse. These small details can tell you whether the road ahead is safe. But today, the forest seems calm. The only sounds are the gentle rustling of leaves and the steady breathing of your horse. You continue deeper along the path. The sunlight flickers through the branches, creating shifting patterns of light and shadow on the ground. Hours pass slowly like this. Travelling through a forest can make time feel different. Without wide views of the horizon, the world becomes smaller and quieter. Eventually the road widens slightly again. The trees begin to thin, and sunlight grows stronger once more. You guide your horse out of the forest and back into open land. Ahead, a narrow wooden bridge crosses a small river. The water below flows quietly between banks covered with pale winter grass. You slow your horse as you approach. Bridges are another place where travellers sometimes pause, sometimes to rest, sometimes to talk, and occasionally to wait for someone. But today, the bridge is empty. You ride across slowly, listening to the soft creaking of the wooden planks beneath your horse's weight. On the other side, you stop for a moment and look around. The journey has only just begun. You still have many miles ahead. But the road so far has been kind. The sky remains clear, the wind remains gentle, and the sealed letter in your pouch remains safe. With a quiet breath, you adjust the reins once more, then guide your horse forward again. The long road continues. By the time the sun reaches the middle of the sky, the world feels different from the quiet morning you left behind. The frost that once covered the fields has slowly melted away. Thin drops of water slide down the blades of grass. The cold wind has softened, though the air still carries the cool breath of winter. Your horse continues walking steadily along the road. The rhythm of travel becomes familiar after many hours. Clip, clop, clip, clop. At first, the sound seems repetitive, but after a while it becomes almost calming. Many messengers spend long days listening to nothing but this quiet rhythm. Sometimes the road is busy, but most of the time it is simply you, your horse, and the long path stretching ahead. The countryside around you has begun to change again. Instead of wide, empty fields, small farms now appear more often along the road. Wooden fences mark the edges of farmland. Simple cottages sit quietly near small barns and sheds. Thin smoke rises from stone chimneys. Life in these small farms follows a slow and steady pattern. People wake early, they work the land, they care for animals, and when the sun begins to set, they return home to warm fires and simple meals. For most of these farmers, the outside world feels very far away. News travels slowly here. Sometimes it takes days or even weeks for important events to reach remote places like this. That is one of the reasons messengers are so important. You're not only carrying letters, you're carrying information, stories, decisions, orders that could change the lives of people living hundreds of miles apart. As you pass one small farm, a young boy stands near a wooden gate watching the road. He notices you immediately. Travellers are not extremely common here, so a rider passing by always draws attention. The boy raises his hand and waves. You lift your hand in return. It is a simple moment, a small greeting between strangers. But moments like this happen often during long journeys. Many people are curious about travellers. They wonder where you have come from, where you are going, what news you might carry. But most of the time, the messenger continues riding without stopping. The road ahead always waits. Soon the farms begin to spread farther apart again. The road gently curves along the edge of a low hill. From the top of the hill you can see a narrow river winding across the land like a silver ribbon. The water glimmers in the sunlight. Beyond the river, more forests stretch across the horizon. Medieval messengers quickly become familiar with landscapes like these. Hills, rivers, forests, open plains. Each region has its own character. Some places feel welcoming, others feel wild and unpredictable, but the road always connects them, and the messenger always continues forward. As the afternoon slowly moves on, the sky begins to shift again. The bright blue colour softens. Thin clouds drift slowly across the sun. Your horse begins to breathe a little heavier now. The long hours of travel are starting to show. You gently slow the pace. Good messengers take care of their horses. Without the horse, the message cannot move. You guide him toward a small patch of grass beside the road where a narrow stream flows quietly. The water trickles gently over small stones. You climb down from the saddle and stretch your legs. After hours of riding, even simple movements feel refreshing. Your horse lowers his head and drinks from the stream. The sound of flowing water mixes with the soft rustling of wind through the nearby trees. You sit on a small rock and take a moment to rest. From your bag you pull out a small piece of dried meat and another piece of bread. Travel food is never fancy, but it keeps you strong enough to continue. As you eat, your hand briefly touches the leather pouch at your side. The letter is still there, still sealed, still waiting to be delivered. You often wonder about the messages you carry, not because you plan to read them. Breaking a seal would be a serious crime, but curiosity is natural. Sometimes a single letter can change everything. A message announcing peace after a long war, a letter warning of danger approaching a town, a request for help during a difficult winter. Some messages carry hope, others carry worry, and sometimes the messenger never learns what happened after the letter arrived. Your role is small but important. You're the bridge between one place and another. After a short rest, you stand again and brush the dust from your cloak. The sun has begun its slow journey toward the western horizon. That means you still have several hours of daylight left. But night will come eventually. Travelling after dark is possible, but it is rarely comfortable. The roads become harder to see. Strange sounds echo from forests, and tired horses move more slowly. You climb back into the saddle and guide your horse toward the road again. The journey continues. The land ahead slowly begins to rise into gentle hills. The road winds upward through patches of grass and scattered stones. From the top of the next hill you notice something interesting. Far in the distance, rising above the landscape, you see the faint outline of tall stone walls. A castle. Even from miles away, castles are easy to recognize. Their towers and walls stand high above the surrounding land. They are symbols of power and protection. Inside those walls live nobles, soldiers, servants, and craftsmen. Many important messages travel between castles like this one. You study the distant shape carefully. It may not be the castle where your letter must go, but it reminds you that the world of rulers and lords is never far away. Messengers often move between ordinary villages and powerful strongholds. One moment you might be riding through quiet farmland. The next moment you might be entering the gates of a massive stone fortress. The road slowly curves away from the distant castle and continues toward another stretch of woodland. The shadows grow longer as the afternoon begins to fade. Birds move quietly between branches. The air cools once more. Your horse keeps walking step by step, mile by mile. The sealed letter remains safely in your pouch, and somewhere ahead, the destination slowly grows closer with every passing hour. The afternoon slowly begins to fade as you continue along the winding road. The sunlight, once bright and high in the sky, now grows softer and warmer. Long shadows stretch across the countryside. The air feels cooler again, carrying the quiet promise of evening. Your horse walks steadily, though the long day of travel has begun to show in his slower pace. You gently pat his neck. A messenger quickly learns that patience is just as important as speed. Rushing a horse too hard can turn a 2-day journey into a much longer one, so you allow the road to unfold at its natural rhythm. Around you, the landscape begins to change once more. The open fields from earlier in the day slowly give way to rougher land. Small clusters of rocks appear beside the path. Low bushes grow along the edges of the road. In the distance, the land rises into gentle hills that seem to roll endlessly toward the horizon. Travel during the Middle Ages often feels like this. The world unfolding slowly around you, quiet, unhurried, sometimes beautiful, sometimes uncertain. As you ride, a faint sound reaches your ears. At first it is difficult to recognize, but after a moment you realize what it is. Voices. Human voices. They drift faintly through the air ahead of you. Your horse lifts his head slightly as well. Soon the road curves around a patch of trees, and you finally see where the sound is coming from. A small group of travellers stands beside the road. 3 people and a wooden cart pulled by a tired mule. They appear to be merchants. Bundles of cloth and small wooden crates fill the back of the cart. One of the men notices you approaching. He raises a hand in greeting. Travellers on the road often share small acknowledgements like this. The road can be lonely, and even brief encounters remind people that they are not completely alone in the world. You slow your horse as you pass them. The merchant smiles politely. "Long road ahead?" he asks. You nod. "There always is." He chuckles quietly. "Yes, that is true." The mule beside him stamps its hoof impatiently. The animal looks tired after a long day pulling the heavy cart. Merchants often travelled slowly for this reason. Their goods were valuable, but their journeys required patience. After a short moment you offer them a small farewell and continue riding. Soon their voices fade behind you. The road returns to silence. The sun continues sinking lower in the sky. The golden light spreads across the hills, turning the grass and stones into shades of amber and copper. Moments like this can feel surprisingly peaceful. Many messengers remember these quiet evening hours the most. After the long effort of the day, the world begins to slow down again. Birds return to their nests. Farmers finish their work and head home. Smoke begins rising from distant chimneys as families prepare their evening meals. But the messenger remains on the road. There is still distance to travel before night fully arrives. The road now leads into another small stretch of forest, not as large as the one you passed earlier, but thick enough to block much of the fading sunlight. The air inside the trees feels cooler and darker. Your horse's hooves step carefully over roots and uneven ground. A gentle breeze moves through the branches above. Leaves rustle softly. The forest smells of pine and damp soil. Some travellers find forests unsettling at dusk. The shadows grow deeper. The sounds of animals become more noticeable, and every movement in the undergrowth can make the mind imagine things that are not really there. But messengers spend enough time on the road that these sounds eventually become familiar. A snapping twig might simply be a deer moving through the trees. A sudden rustle might be a rabbit darting into a bush. Still, you remain watchful. It is a habit that every experienced traveller develops. Eventually the trees begin to thin again. The forest opens onto a wide clearing. The last light of the day spills across the land. The sky has begun to shift into soft shades of orange and purple. Night is not far away now. You glance toward the road ahead. In the distance, you notice something that brings quiet relief. A small roadside inn. Travellers during the Middle Ages often relied on places like this. They were not luxurious, but they offered shelter, food, and a warm place to rest. The building stands beside the road with a wooden sign hanging above the door. A lantern already glows near the entrance. Your horse seems to sense the approaching rest as well. His steps grow a little quicker. You guide him toward the stable beside the inn. A stable boy steps out to greet you. He looks young but experienced, moving quickly to take the reins. "Long journey?" he asks. 2 days, you reply. He nods with understanding. Many travellers passing through this road share similar stories. You remove the saddle and give your horse a final pat. The animal snorts softly before lowering his head toward a pile of fresh hay. Inside the inn, warmth immediately greets you. A large fire crackles in the hearth. The smell of cooked stew fills the air. A few travellers sit quietly at wooden tables. Some speak softly. Others simply rest after their own long journeys. You sit near the fire and allow the warmth to reach your hands. The leather pouch at your side remains safely fastened. Even during rest, a messenger never forgets the responsibility he carries. The letter must reach its destination tomorrow. For now, though, the road pauses. Outside, darkness slowly settles over the countryside. The long journey will continue with the sunrise. But tonight, for a few peaceful hours, the messenger rests beside the fire while the quiet world of the Middle Ages sleeps. The warmth of the inn slowly begins to chase away the cold that followed you throughout the long day on the road. Your hands, stiff from holding the reins for hours, relax as you hold them close to the fire. The flames crackle softly inside the stone hearth. Small sparks drift upward before disappearing into the chimney above. After an entire day of riding through cold air and quiet countryside, even simple warmth feels comforting. The inn itself is not large. It is built from rough wooden beams and thick stone walls. The floor beneath your boots is made of uneven planks, worn smooth by years of travellers passing through. Every table carries small scratches and marks left behind by countless meals and conversations. Places like this exist all across the medieval world. Small roadside inns that offer shelter to anyone travelling between towns, merchants, pilgrims, messengers, soldiers. Even wandering musicians or storytellers sometimes stop here during their long journeys. Tonight, only a handful of travellers sit inside. A pair of merchants quietly sharing a bowl of stew. A tired farmer warming his hands near the fire, and an older traveller sitting alone near the far wall, slowly sipping from a wooden mug. No one speaks loudly. After a full day of travel, most people prefer quiet comfort over conversation. The innkeeper soon approaches your table. He's a broad man with tired eyes but a friendly expression. "What can I bring you?" he asks. You request a simple meal, bread, stew, and perhaps a cup of warm ale. Nothing fancy. but more than enough to restore your strength. While you wait, you glance briefly toward the leather pouch still hanging at your side. The sealed letter remains safely inside. The red wax seal is untouched. Even during rest, a messenger never forgets the purpose of the journey. Messages must be protected until they reach their destination. Soon the innkeeper returns with a wooden bowl filled with steaming stew. The smell alone is enough to make you realize how hungry you truly are. You begin eating slowly. The stew is simple: chunks of vegetables, a little meat, a thick broth seasoned with herbs. But after a long day on the road, it tastes far better than any fancy meal. Across the room, the two merchants begin speaking quietly with one another. You catch small pieces of their conversation drifting through the air. They talk about markets in distant towns, about roads that have become muddy after recent rains, about rumours of increased taxes in one nearby region. Travellers often carry news just by talking with one another. In a world without newspapers, small conversations become an important way information spreads. Messengers sometimes learn surprising things this way. News about storms, about unsafe roads, about villages that might offer shelter for the night. You continue eating while listening quietly. Not every piece of news matters to your journey, but sometimes small details can be useful later. After finishing your meal, you lean back slightly in your chair. The fire continues crackling beside you. Your body begins to feel the full weight of the day's travel. Hours in the saddle leave muscles stiff and tired. Your eyes grow heavy. But before resting for the night, there is one thing every messenger must do. You check the letter once more. Carefully, you open the leather pouch just enough to see the folded parchment inside. The wax seal remains firm and unbroken. Satisfied, you close the pouch again and secure the strap. Only then do you allow yourself to relax fully. Soon, the innkeeper shows you a small room upstairs. The room is simple: a wooden bed, a straw mattress, a thick wool blanket folded neatly on top. A small candle sits on a narrow table beside the bed. Medieval travellers rarely expect luxury. After long hours on the road, even the simplest bed feels welcome. You remove your boots and place them near the door. The wooden floor creaks softly beneath your steps. Outside the small window, night has fully arrived. The sky's deep and dark. Stars shine faintly above the silent countryside. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barks once before the night becomes quiet again. You lie down on the straw mattress. It is not perfectly soft, but exhaustion quickly makes it comfortable enough. The thick blanket traps the warmth of your body. Your thoughts drift slowly back over the events of the day. The quiet village you left behind, the open fields, the forests, the travellers you passed along the road. All of it feels distant now. Tomorrow the journey will continue. More miles, more roads, more unknown places waiting ahead. But tonight, the messenger rests. Downstairs, the fire in the hearth slowly burns lower. The last travellers finish their drinks and quietly head to their own rooms. Outside, the cold night settles across the land. The road waits patiently for morning. And somewhere beyond hills and forests, the castle where your message must arrive stands silent beneath the stars. Inside the small inn, you finally close your eyes. Sleep comes quickly, because when the sun rises again, the journey must begin once more. Long before the sun rises, the quiet inn begins to stir. The world outside is still dark. Cold air presses against the wooden walls, and the night sky remains deep and silent. Inside your small room, the last embers of sleep slowly fade as you open your eyes. For a moment, everything is still. The thick wool blanket rests heavily across your shoulders. The faint smell of wood smoke drifts through the hallway. And somewhere downstairs, you hear the soft creaking of wooden floorboards as the innkeeper begins his early morning work. Travellers during the Middle Ages often woke before sunrise. Daylight was valuable. Every hour of light meant more distance covered on the road. You sit up slowly and stretch your arms. The long ride from yesterday has left your muscles stiff. But that is nothing unusual for a messenger. Life on the road quickly teaches the body to accept small discomforts. After putting your boots back on, you fasten your cloak around your shoulders. The air in the hallway is noticeably colder than your room. When you step downstairs, the innkeeper is already awake. He moves quietly around the hearth, adding fresh wood to the fire. Flames slowly begin to grow again, filling the room with soft orange light. A kettle hangs above the fire, warming water for the morning. He glances up when he sees you. "Early start?" he asks. You nod. "The road is long." He gives a small smile. "Yes, it always is." Soon he places a simple breakfast on the table. A piece of bread, a small portion of cheese, and a cup of warm drink that helps push away the morning chill. You eat quietly while the fire crackles nearby. Outside the windows, the sky slowly begins to change. The deep darkness softens into shades of grey. Morning is approaching. After finishing your meal, you step outside into the cold air. The stable boy is already awake as well. He brushes your horse carefully, removing the dust from yesterday's journey. The animal lifts its head as you approach and lets out a quiet breath. A cloud of warm air rises into the chilly morning. You gently check the saddle and straps. Everything looks secure. Then your hand instinctively reaches toward the leather pouch hanging from your belt. You open it slightly. The folded parchment remains exactly where it should be. The red wax seal is still intact. The message remains safe. Only after confirming this do you close the pouch again. The sky continues brightening above the distant hills. Thin streaks of pale orange appear along the horizon. Birds begin their early morning songs from nearby trees. Another day on the road is beginning. You climb onto the saddle and guide your horse toward the road once more. The inn grows smaller behind you as the journey resumes. Morning roads often feel peaceful. The air is fresh. The land is quiet. Mist rises gently from the fields as the first light of day spreads across the countryside. Your horse walks at a steady pace, well rested after the night. The road stretches ahead between open farmland and scattered trees. Small patches of frost still cling to the grass beside the path. The cold wind brushes softly against your cloak, but the rising sun slowly begins warming the land again. As the morning continues, you pass a few early travellers. A farmer guiding a wooden cart filled with hay. A pair of villagers walking toward a nearby town. They nod politely as you pass. Most people recognize the look of a messenger. The saddlebags, the steady pace, the focused expression of someone who must keep moving forward. By mid-morning, the land begins to change again. The road slopes gently upward toward a rocky hillside. Large grey stones rise from the earth like ancient guardians watching the road. The path here becomes rougher. Your horse carefully steps over uneven ground. Travel in the Middle Ages rarely offered perfect roads. Many paths had been shaped simply by years of travellers passing through the same route. Rain, wind, and seasons constantly change their condition. Still, messengers learn to navigate them with patience. From the top of the hill you pause for a moment. The view stretches far across the land. Forests roll across the horizon like dark waves. Small villages sit quietly in the distance, and somewhere beyond those hills lies the castle where your message must be delivered. The journey is slowly bringing you closer, but many miles still remain. You guide your horse down the other side of the hill. The road begins leading toward a narrow valley. Tall trees grow along the edges of the path. Their branches form long shadows across the ground. The sound of a distant river reaches your ears, water moving over stones somewhere ahead. These valleys often hide small bridges or crossings where travellers must pass carefully. As you ride deeper into the valley, the air becomes cooler again. Birds flutter between the branches above. Your horse continues walking calmly. The rhythm of travel returns once more. Clip, clop, clip, clop. The sound echoes softly between the hills. Somewhere ahead, the road bends around a large group of trees. You cannot yet see what lies beyond that curve, but the road always leads somewhere. sometimes toward quiet villages, sometimes toward busy towns, and sometimes toward unexpected encounters that remind you the road is never entirely predictable. For now, though, the journey remains calm. The sealed message rests safely in your pouch, and with every steady step the messenger moves closer to the place where the letter must finally be delivered. The valley grows quieter as you continue along the winding path. Tall trees stand close together on both sides of the road. Their branches stretch across the sky like long arms, allowing only small patches of sunlight to reach the ground. The air here feels cooler than the open fields you travelled earlier. A gentle breeze moves through the leaves, creating a soft rustling sound above you. Your horse continues walking at a calm and steady pace. After the good rest at the inn, he seems stronger this morning. The rhythm of his hooves echoes softly against the rocky ground. Clip, clop, clip, clop. The sound travels between the hills of the valley, fading slowly into the distance behind you. For a long time, the road remains empty. No travellers, no carts, no voices, just the quiet world of trees, wind, and distant water. But then the sound of the river grows louder. At first it is only a faint murmur in the distance. Soon it becomes clearer, water flowing steadily over stones. The road curves gently around a patch of tall trees, and then you see it, a narrow wooden bridge crossing the river. The river itself is not very wide, but the current moves quickly between the banks. Cold mountain water flows down from the hills far away. The surface sparkles in the morning sunlight. Small waves ripple around smooth rocks beneath the surface. Your horse slows as you approach the bridge. Most animals do this naturally. Bridges often smell different from the surrounding land. The wooden planks carry the scent of water and damp wood. You guide your horse carefully onto the bridge. The wooden boards creak softly beneath his weight. Step by step he moves across the narrow crossing. Below you, the river rushes along its path. The sound of flowing water fills the quiet valley. For a moment you pause at the middle of the bridge. The cool air rising from the river brushes against your face. You look down at the water. Many travellers stop briefly at river crossings like this. Rivers were important landmarks during medieval journeys. They marked borders between lands. They provided water for villages and farms, and they often shaped the paths that roads would follow. Once across the bridge, the road begins climbing again. This time the path leads up through rocky ground where grass grows in small patches between stones. The valley slowly opens into higher land. From here, you can see farther across the countryside again. In the distance, the forests appear darker and thicker. The hills grow taller as they stretch toward the horizon. Somewhere beyond those hills lies the destination of your journey. But the road does not hurry. It never does. Travel during the Middle Ages is always slow. Even a strong horse can only move so fast across rough ground. And long journeys require many careful miles. As you ride higher into the hills, the wind becomes stronger. Your cloak flutters slightly behind you. Clouds drift slowly across the sky, casting moving shadows across the land. From time to time, you pass small signs of life. A shepherd guiding a group of sheep across a distant hillside. A lonely farmhouse built beside a narrow field. Thin smoke rising quietly from a stone chimney. These small glimpses remind you that even the quietest lands hold people living their daily lives. But most of the time, the road remains empty. Hours pass slowly. The sun climbs higher above the hills. Your horse breathes steadily as he continues forward. Eventually, the road reaches the top of a long slope. From here, the view changes again. Below you lies a wide stretch of land filled with fields and small clusters of trees. And far across that land, barely visible through the distant air, you notice something rising above the horizon. Stone towers. At first they appear small, just thin shapes against the sky. But as you look more carefully, you recognize what they are. A castle. The tall walls and towers stand proudly above the surrounding countryside. Even from this distance, they are unmistakable. Castles like this serve many purposes in the medieval world. They protect the land. They house soldiers. They remind everyone who passes by that a powerful lord rules this region. You study the distant castle for a moment. It may not yet be the one where your message must be delivered, but it is a sign that you are travelling through lands where important decisions are made, where letters like the one in your pouch carry meaning and consequence. You gently adjust the reins of your horse and begin riding down the slope toward the wide fields below. The afternoon is still young. There is plenty of daylight left, but every mile travelled brings the message closer to its destination. The road stretches onward through the quiet countryside, and the messenger continues forward, guided by duty, patience, and the steady rhythm of the journey. As the road carries you down from the hills, the land slowly begins to feel more alive. The quiet valleys and empty forests of the morning fade behind you. Now the road grows wider. The ground becomes smoother from the many wheels and hoofs that have passed this way over the years. You guide your horse forward at a steady pace, feeling the gentle slope of the land beneath you. The sun now stands high in the sky. Its warm light spreads across the open countryside. Small patches of farmland appear again. Fields stretch across the land in neat rows. Some are empty after the last harvest. Others still show small green shoots pushing up from the soil. A wooden fence runs beside the road for a while, before slowly disappearing into the distance. Your horse's hooves strike the road with a familiar rhythm. Clip, clop, clip, clop. The sound feels almost comforting now. After days on the road, the steady rhythm becomes part of your thoughts. It blends with the wind, with the distant calls of birds, with the quiet movement of the land itself. Soon you begin to notice something different. Far ahead on the road, a cloud of dust rises slowly into the air. At first, it looks like nothing more than a pale blur above the ground. But as you ride closer, shapes begin to form inside the dust. A group of travellers, a caravan. Caravans like this often move slowly across long roads. They carry goods between towns and cities. Sometimes they include merchants, sometimes farmers bringing supplies to market, and sometimes travellers simply join together for safety. The medieval roads can be unpredictable. Travelling in a group often feels safer than travelling alone. As you approach the caravan, you begin to see more details. 2 wooden carts roll slowly along the road. Large wheels creak with every turn. The carts are pulled by strong horses covered in thick leather harnesses. Bundles of cloth, sacks of grain, and wooden barrels are stacked carefully inside the carts. Several people walk beside them. A few others ride on horseback. The entire group moves at a calm and patient pace. No one seems in a hurry. You guide your horse closer. One of the travellers notices you first. He raises a hand in greeting. Soon a few others glance toward you as well. Travellers on the road often recognise the look of a messenger. The leather pouch, the steady riding, the focused eyes always looking toward the road ahead. You slow your horse slightly as you pass alongside the caravan. A bearded merchant riding near the front speaks to you. "Good road today?" he asks in a friendly voice. You nod. "So far," he smiles. "That is good to hear. These roads are kinder than many others." The merchant gestures toward the carts behind him. "We left the market town 2 days ago." His voice carries a tired but satisfied tone. "Sold most of our goods there." Merchants often share small stories like this. The road becomes a place where people exchange news and experiences. You speak briefly with them while your horse walks beside the caravan. They tell you about muddy roads farther south, about a bridge that collapsed after a heavy storm, about rumours of soldiers moving near one of the border towns. Such conversations can be valuable. Messengers sometimes learn useful information simply by listening. But eventually the time comes to continue your own journey. A messenger rarely travels at the slow pace of a merchant caravan. You offer a polite farewell. The merchant nods. "Safe travels," he says, "and may the road stay kind to you." You guide your horse ahead of the caravan. Soon their carts and voices fade slowly behind you. The road becomes quiet again. But something about the journey feels slightly different now. Encounters like that remind you that the road connects many lives. Every traveller carries a purpose. Merchants carry goods. Pilgrims carry faith. Farmers carry supplies. And messengers carry words. Words that travel across miles of land. Words that can change plans, decisions, and sometimes entire kingdoms. The afternoon continues to move forward. Clouds drift lazily across the sky. A gentle wind brushes across the fields. Your horse keeps moving with patient determination. Soon the road leads toward another village. Small wooden houses appear ahead, their roofs covered with straw and thatch. Thin smoke rises from a few chimneys. Children run near a well in the centre of the village. They pause when they see a rider approaching. Travellers always draw curious eyes in small places like this. You ride slowly through the narrow street. A blacksmith works beside his forge. The sound of hammer striking metal rings through the air. An old woman sweeps dust from the doorway of her home. She glances up briefly as you pass. The village feels calm and ordinary. Simple lives unfolding quietly along the road. Within a few minutes the houses fall behind you. The road opens again into wide fields. The afternoon sun begins its slow journey downward. Long shadows stretch across the land, and somewhere ahead, beyond the rolling countryside, the destination of your message slowly waits. The road continues, and the messenger rides on. The road stretches calmly ahead as the village slowly disappears behind you. Soon the small houses, the blacksmith's hammer, and the curious children fade into the distance. Only the open countryside remains. The afternoon sun hangs gently in the sky, no longer high and bright like earlier in the day. Its light has begun to soften. Long shadows stretch across the fields and narrow paths beside the road. Your horse walks steadily forward, breathing calmly after the short ride through the village. The familiar rhythm returns again. Clip, clop, clip, clop. In the medieval world, most journeys are like this. Long hours of quiet travel, large distances between towns, and many moments where nothing happens except the slow movement of time itself. But for a messenger, even these quiet hours carry meaning, because every mile travelled brings the message closer to its destination. The land around you begins to shift once again. The wide farmland slowly gives way to rougher ground. Patches of tall grass sway gently in the wind. Large stones sit scattered across the fields like silent watchers. Far ahead, dark clouds slowly begin to gather along the horizon. At first they appear thin and distant, but as the minutes pass their shapes grow heavier. The sky above the hills slowly changes colour. The bright blue fades into a pale grey. A cool breeze moves across the land. Your horse flicks his ears, sensing the change in the weather. Storms during the Middle Ages could make travel much harder. Heavy rain turned dirt roads into thick mud. Bridges became slippery. Streams sometimes overflowed across the path. But for now, the storm remains far away. There is still time to continue the journey. You guide your horse forward, watching the shifting sky. The wind grows a little stronger now. It moves through the grass with a soft whispering sound. The smell of rain begins to drift through the air. It is a familiar scent for travellers, a warning carried by the wind long before the first drops fall. The road bends slowly around a low hill. As you follow the curve, you notice something new ahead. Another rider. He appears small at first, just a dark shape moving slowly along the road. But as you draw closer, the details become clearer. The rider sits on a sturdy brown horse. His cloak flutters slightly in the wind. A small pack hangs behind his saddle. He turns his head as he hears your horse approaching. Soon you ride close enough to greet one another. Travellers often share small greetings like this. Even strangers on the road feel a brief connection. You both understand the same quiet challenges of long journeys. "Good afternoon," the rider says. His voice carries a calm and friendly tone. You return the greeting. The rider studies the sky for a moment. "Storm coming," he says. Nodding toward the dark clouds, you glance toward the horizon again. The clouds have grown larger now, their dark edges spread slowly across the sky. Yes, you reply. Looks like it. The rider adjusts his cloak against the wind. Best find shelter before evening if you can. You thank him for the advice. The two of you ride side by side for a short distance. He tells you that he came from a town 2 days north of here, a quiet place near the edge of the forest. He also mentions a small shelter further along the road. An old watch hut, he says. Not much, but it keeps the rain away. Information like this is always useful for travellers. Roadside shelters are rare but valuable during sudden storms. After a few more minutes, the rider turns his horse toward a smaller path that branches away from the main road. Our paths split here, he says. You nod politely. Safe travels. And to you, he replies. Soon he disappears along the narrow trail between the hills. Once again, the road becomes quiet. The wind continues to grow stronger. The clouds now cover most of the sky. The sunlight fades behind their heavy shadows. A low rumble of distant thunder rolls across the land. Your horse continues forward, though his pace becomes slightly quicker. Animals often sense storms before they fully arrive. The air feels heavier now. The smell of rain grows stronger with each passing moment. Somewhere ahead, the small shelter the rider mentioned may be waiting beside the road. You hope to reach it before the storm begins, because travelling in heavy rain can turn even the simplest road into a difficult path. But the messenger continues forward. The sealed letter remains safely protected inside the leather pouch, its wax seal still strong, its message still hidden. And somewhere beyond these hills, the place where those words must be delivered slowly draws nearer. The wind whistles across the open fields, the sky darkens above the land, and the long road continues beneath the approaching storm. The wind grows stronger as the dark clouds spread across the sky. Only a short time ago the afternoon had felt calm and peaceful. Now the air carries a heavy stillness that often comes before rain. The fields around the road sway under the restless wind. Tall grass bends and rises again with every passing gust. Your horse lifts his head and snorts softly, sensing the coming change in the weather. Far above, the clouds slowly move together like a thick grey blanket covering the sky. The bright sunlight from earlier in the day is gone now. The world has turned dim and shadowed. Another low rumble of thunder rolls quietly across the hills. It does not sound close yet, but it is getting nearer. You pull your cloak tighter around your shoulders as the cold wind pushes against your back. The road ahead stretches across a wide open field. There are very few trees here, only the narrow dirt path cutting through the grass. If the storm arrives quickly, there will be little protection from the rain. You remember the traveller from earlier who mentioned a small roadside shelter, an old watch hut somewhere along the road. But the problem is that you do not know exactly how far away it is. It could be only a mile ahead, or several miles farther. The road curves slightly as it continues through the open land. Your horse walks faster now, as if he also understands the need to keep moving. Clip, clop, clip, clop. The rhythm of hooves becomes sharper against the dry ground. The wind whistles across the fields. In the distance, lightning flashes for just a brief moment behind the thick clouds. The light fades almost instantly, but the message is clear. The storm is coming. After several more minutes of riding, you begin to notice something along the road ahead. At first, it appears only as a dark shape standing beside the path. But as you draw closer, the shape slowly becomes clearer. A small stone structure sits near the edge of the road. It is simple. Rough stone walls, a wooden roof covered with old weathered boards. The door stands slightly open. The watch hut. Relief spreads quietly through your thoughts. You guide your horse toward the shelter, just as the first small drops of rain begin to fall. They land softly on the dusty road. Dark spots appear in the dry earth. Within moments, the rain begins to fall faster. You quickly lead your horse beside the hut where a narrow overhang provides some protection. Inside the small shelter, the space is simple and quiet. There is no furniture, only rough stone walls and a small wooden bench built along one side. Places like this were sometimes used by travellers or watchmen many years ago. Now they remain mostly empty, but during storms they become valuable places to wait. You remove your cloak and shake the rainwater from its edges. Outside, the storm grows stronger. Rain begins falling in heavy sheets across the land. The open field disappears behind a curtain of grey water. Thunder echoes loudly now, much closer than before. Lightning flashes across the sky, lighting the landscape for brief moments. Your horse stands calmly beside the hut, sheltered from the worst of the rain. You step outside for a moment and gently check the straps of the saddle. Everything remains secure. Your hand moves once again to the leather pouch at your side. The letter is still there, dry, safe, protected beneath your cloak. Even during storms, the messenger's duty remains the same. The message must continue its journey. But for now, waiting is the wiser choice. Travelling through heavy rain can make the road dangerous. Mud forms quickly. Hooves slip on wet ground, and visibility becomes poor. So you sit quietly inside the small watch hut and listen to the sound of the storm. Rain strikes the wooden roof with a steady rhythm. Wind pushes against the stone walls. Thunder rolls again across the hills. Minutes pass slowly, then an hour. Gradually the storm begins to calm. The heavy rain softens into lighter drops. The thunder grows more distant. Eventually the clouds begin to drift apart, allowing pale sunlight to return. You step outside the hut once more. The world looks completely different now. The dry road has become dark and damp. Small puddles reflect the grey sky. The grass shines with fresh water. Your horse shakes his mane, sending small droplets flying through the air. The storm has passed. You tighten the saddle straps and prepare to continue. The road ahead is wet but still passable. The sky slowly brightens as the clouds drift farther away. Soon the quiet countryside returns once more. The sealed letter rests safely in your pouch. The destination still waits somewhere beyond the hills. And with steady hands on the reins, the messenger once again returns to the road. The rain has stopped, but the land still carries the quiet memory of the storm. Water drips slowly from the edges of leaves and branches. Small puddles sit along the road, reflecting the pale sky above. The air feels cleaner now, cooler. The heavy smell of wet earth rises gently from the ground. You guide your horse back onto the road after leaving the small watch hut behind. The clouds are already beginning to break apart. Thin rays of sunlight slip through the grey sky and stretch across the countryside. Your horse steps carefully over the damp ground. The road has turned darker after the rain. In some places the dirt has softened into thin layers of mud, but the path remains clear enough to continue the journey. Clip, clop, clip, clop. The steady sound of hooves returns once again. Only now it carries a slightly softer tone against the wet road. The countryside feels unusually quiet after the storm. Many birds have hidden themselves during the heavy rain. Now they slowly begin to return. A few soft chirping sounds drift through the air from nearby trees. In the distance, the fields shine gently under the fading clouds. Droplets of water sparkle on the tall grass as the sunlight touches them. Moments like this often feel peaceful to travellers. The storm has passed. The air feels fresh, and the road stretches forward once more. You ride slowly across the damp fields. Your cloak still carries a few drops of rain from earlier, but the cool wind helps dry it quickly as you move forward. After some time, the road begins to rise slightly again. Low hills appear along the horizon. The land here feels quieter than the busy roads near villages and markets. Few travellers pass through this area. Sometimes the only company a messenger has is the sound of the wind and the steady steps of a horse. As you climb the gentle hill, something catches your attention in the distance. A thin trail of smoke rises slowly into the sky. It comes from a small building standing near the edge of the road. As you ride closer, the shape becomes clearer. It is a small farmhouse, built from rough stone with a roof covered in straw and wooden beams. A wooden fence surrounds a small garden beside the house. A few chickens wander across the yard, pecking at the wet ground. The smell of smoke drifting from the chimney suggests someone inside is cooking or warming the house after the storm. You slow your horse slightly as you pass the farmhouse. A farmer steps out through the wooden door. He notices you riding along the road. For a moment he simply watches quietly. Travellers passing through the countryside are not unusual, but a lone rider still draws attention. The farmer raises a hand in greeting. You nod politely in return. No words are exchanged, just a silent acknowledgement between two people living very different lives. The farmer returns to his work. You continue along the road. Soon the farmhouse fades behind you, becoming smaller against the hills. The road now leads toward another stretch of woodland. The trees ahead stand tall and dark against the sky. Their branches sway gently in the cool wind left behind by the storm. As you enter the forest path, the air becomes quieter again. The sounds of the open fields disappear behind the thick trees. Only the rustle of leaves and the steady rhythm of hooves remain. Travelling through forests always requires a little more attention. The path becomes narrower. Roots sometimes rise from the ground. Loose stones hide beneath fallen leaves. Your horse moves carefully through the shaded trail. The sunlight barely reaches the ground here. Instead, soft patches of light appear between the branches above. Time passes slowly as you travel deeper through the trees, but eventually the forest begins to thin again. Ahead, the road opens toward another wide valley. From the top of the hill you pause for a moment and look out across the land. The storm clouds have mostly disappeared now. The sky has returned to its calm blue colour. And far across the valley, standing proudly against the horizon, something catches your eye. Tall stone towers. A castle, much closer than the distant one you saw earlier in the journey. Its thick walls rise above the surrounding land like silent guardians watching the countryside. Even from here, you can see the shape of its towers and battlements. The destination of your journey may finally be approaching. You guide your horse down the hill once more. The road continues toward the valley below. The sealed letter rests safely inside your leather pouch, its message still unknown to you. But soon, somewhere within those stone walls ahead, the words inside that parchment will finally reach the person they were meant for, and the long road of the messenger will bring him one step closer to the end of his journey. The castle towers remain visible as you continue down the hill. From this distance they appear strong and silent against the sky. Thick stone walls rise high above the land, surrounded by smaller buildings and distant farmland. For many travellers, the sight of a castle can feel both impressive and intimidating. It is a symbol of power, of protection, and of authority over the land surrounding it. Your horse walks steadily down the slope, his hooves carefully finding solid ground along the damp road. The rain from earlier has left the earth dark and soft in places. Small puddles reflect the fading clouds above. The valley below spreads wide and peaceful. Fields stretch across the land in different shades of green and brown. Farmers work slowly in the distance, guiding simple tools through the soil. A narrow stream winds its way through the fields like a silver ribbon. The sound of flowing water drifts faintly through the air as the wind carries it across the valley. You continue riding toward the castle, following the main road that cuts through the farmland. Along the path you begin to notice more signs of life. A small wagon loaded with sacks of grain moves slowly along the road ahead. The farmer guiding the wagon glances over his shoulder as you approach. He shifts his horse slightly to the side, allowing you to pass. You nod politely as you ride by. Encounters like this are common near larger settlements. Castles often serve as the centre of local life. Farmers bring their crops to nearby markets. Workers travel to and from the castle gates, Soldiers patrol the surrounding lands. As the road continues through the valley, the castle slowly grows larger in your view. The tall outer walls become clearer. You can now see the square towers rising at each corner. Flags move gently in the wind from the top of the battlements. The stone walls appear thick and strong, built to defend the land from enemies long ago. Before reaching the castle itself, the road passes through a small village. Several wooden houses stand beside the path. Their roofs are covered with straw and wooden beams. Smoke drifts slowly from their chimneys. Children play beside a small well near the centre of the village. They pause and watch as you ride past. Travellers often bring small moments of excitement to quiet places like this. An elderly man sits on a wooden bench outside one of the houses. He lifts his eyes briefly as you pass. His expression remains calm and thoughtful. The village itself feels peaceful. Simple lives unfolding quietly beneath the shadow of the nearby castle. Soon the last houses fade behind you. The road begins to rise again toward the castle gates. The walls now stand tall and close before you. Massive stone blocks form the outer barrier. Narrow windows appear high along the towers. These openings allow defenders to watch the land beyond the walls. A wide wooden gate stands at the entrance. Iron bands strengthen the heavy doors. Above the gate, a guard tower rises high above the road. 2 soldiers stand along the wall watching the approach of travellers. Your horse slows naturally as you near the entrance. Most people approaching a castle do the same. The guards observe every visitor carefully. You guide your horse toward the gate and stop a short distance away. One of the guards leans slightly over the stone wall above. His voice calls down toward you. State your purpose. His tone is firm but not unfriendly. You reach for the leather pouch at your side. Carefully you remove the sealed parchment. You hold it up so the guard can see the wax seal clearly. A message for the lord of the castle, you reply. The guard studies the seal for a moment. Then he nods toward the men below. The heavy wooden gate slowly begins to open. The thick doors move with a deep creaking sound as they swing inward. Beyond the gate lies the castle courtyard. Stone buildings stand along the inner walls. Soldiers walk along the paths between them. A stable area sits near one side of the yard. The smell of hay and horses fills the air. You guide your horse through the gate and into the castle grounds. The guards close the gate behind you with another heavy sound. For the first time since the journey began, the road disappears behind stone walls. The message you carry has finally reached the place where it must be delivered. But the final step of the journey still remains. Somewhere inside these towering walls, someone waits to receive the words sealed inside that parchment. And the messenger must now complete the duty that brought him across miles of quiet roads and changing skies. The heavy wooden gate closes slowly behind you. The deep sound of the doors echoes across the stone courtyard. For the first time in many days, the open road is no longer in front of you. Instead, tall castle walls surround the space on every side. Inside the courtyard, life moves with quiet purpose. Soldiers walk along the stone paths wearing simple armour and carrying spears. A few stable workers lead horses toward a large wooden stable built against the inner wall. The smell of hay, leather, and damp stone fills the air. After so many miles of quiet countryside, the castle feels almost busy. Not loud or chaotic, but full of small movements and quiet activity. You guide your horse slowly across the courtyard. The sound of hooves echoes gently against the stone ground. Nearby, a blacksmith works beside a small forge built against the wall. Each strike of his hammer sends a clear ringing sound through the air. Sparks briefly glow before fading into the afternoon light. A pair of soldiers pass beside you. They glance briefly at the leather pouch hanging from your belt. Most of them already recognize what it means. Messengers arrive from time to time carrying sealed letters. Some bring news from distant towns. Others carry instructions between lords and rulers. Your horse finally reaches the stable area. A young stable worker steps forward to greet you. He looks no older than 15. His hands are dusty from hay and work. "Travelling rider?" he asks politely. You nod and gently climb down from the saddle. "A message for the Lord." The boy quickly takes the reins of your horse. "I will care for him," he says. "He looks tired from the road." You give the horse a gentle pat on the neck before handing the reins to the stable worker. After so many miles together, even a simple horse becomes a trusted companion. The boy leads the animal toward the stable while you turn toward the large stone building standing at the centre of the courtyard, the main hall. Its tall doors stand open. Thick wooden beams support the heavy stone walls above. Small banners hang from iron hooks along the entrance. The colours on the cloth show the symbol of the Lord who rules this castle. As you step inside, the air becomes cooler. The stone floor beneath your boots feels smooth from years of footsteps. The hall is large but quiet. Long wooden tables stand along both sides of the room. At the far end, a raised platform holds a large chair carved from dark wood. Several servants move quietly through the hall carrying baskets and tools. A man wearing simple robes approaches you. He appears to be one of the castle stewards. His eyes immediately notice the sealed parchment in your hand. "You carry a message?" he asks calmly. You hold the letter forward. "Yes. For the lord of the castle." The steward studies the red wax seal for a moment. His expression becomes slightly more serious. Then he nods. "Follow me." He turns and begins walking toward a smaller doorway near the far end of the hall. You follow quietly behind him. After so many miles together, the bond between rider and horse feels familiar and steady. The castle gates slowly open once more as you guide your horse toward the road outside. Beyond the walls, the countryside stretches wide under the morning sun. The same road you travelled yesterday now leads forward again. Fields sway gently in the breeze. Birds circle high above the distant hills. The journey that ended here now becomes the beginning of another. You climb into the saddle and turn your horse toward the open road. Clip, clop, clip, clop. The familiar rhythm of hooves begins once again. Across the medieval world, countless messages continue travelling from place to place, carried by riders like you, through changing weather, through quiet villages, through forests and fields that stretch beyond the horizon. And somewhere ahead, another destination waits, another sealed letter, another long road guiding the messenger forward into the calm and endless landscape of history. The stone corridor beyond the hall feels narrow and cool. Small torches burn along the walls, filling the passage with soft flickering light. Your footsteps echo gently through the hallway. After several turns, the steward stops beside a wooden door guarded by 2 soldiers. He speaks briefly with them in a quiet voice. One of the soldiers opens the door. Inside the room sits a large wooden desk covered with maps and parchment scrolls. A tall window allows sunlight to fall across the stone floor. Behind the desk sits a man wearing dark robes and a heavy cloak. His expression is calm and thoughtful. This is the lord of the castle, the man who governs these lands. He looks up as you enter the room. The steward steps aside and gestures toward you. "A messenger has arrived," he says. You step forward slowly and present the sealed letter. The lord reaches out and takes the parchment. For a moment he studies the wax seal carefully. Then he breaks it open with a small knife resting on the desk. The sound of cracking wax is quiet but final. The message that travelled across forests, hills, villages and storms has finally reached its destination. The lord unfolds the parchment and begins reading. You wait silently while his eyes move across the lines of writing. His expression changes slightly as he reads, thoughtful, serious, then calm again. After a moment he folds the letter and places it carefully on the desk. "You have done your duty well," he says. His voice is steady and respectful. "The road is long for those who carry messages like this." You bow your head slightly. The journey that began many miles away has finally reached its purpose. The message has been delivered. But for a messenger, the road never truly ends. Soon another letter may need carrying, another distant journey waiting beyond the castle gates. For now, though, the long ride across the land has finally come to its quiet conclusion. After the letter has been delivered, the room grows quiet again. The lord of the castle carefully folds the parchment and places it among the other documents resting on his desk. For him, the message is only one piece of the many decisions that fill each day. But for you, the messenger, that single letter carried the weight of an entire journey. Miles of road, changing weather, long hours in the saddle, all leading to this moment. The lord looks toward the steward standing near the doorway. "Make sure the rider is given food and a place to rest," he says calmly. "The road is not kind to tired travellers." The steward nods respectfully. "It will be done." You bow your head once more before stepping back from the desk. Your duty here is complete. The steward gently motions for you to follow him again. The stone corridor outside the room feels quieter than before. The torches along the walls flicker softly as you walk past. Soon you return to the large main hall where several servants continue their evening tasks. The daylight outside the tall windows has begun to fade. The sky slowly changes from pale blue to warm shades of orange and gold. Evening is approaching. Many travellers often reach their destination near sunset. After a long day on the road, the final miles always seem to take the longest. The steward leads you toward a smaller door at the side of the hall. Beyond it lies a narrow staircase built into the thick castle wall. The steps spiral gently upward. Your boots echo softly against the stone as you climb. At the top of the staircase, a short hallway leads to a row of small guest rooms. "These are used for visitors and travellers," the steward explains. He opens one of the wooden doors and steps aside. Inside the room, the space is simple but comfortable. A wooden bed stands against the wall. A thick wool blanket rests neatly across it. A small table sits beside a narrow window overlooking the castle courtyard. From here you can see the fading light of the evening sky above the stone walls. The steward nods politely. "Food will be brought shortly," he says. "Rest well tonight." With that, he quietly closes the door behind him. For the first time in many days, the road no longer calls you forward. You set your leather pouch on the small table beside the bed. It feels strangely light now without the sealed letter inside. A messenger often carries many such messages across many journeys, but each one always feels important during the ride. You walk to the window and look down into the courtyard below. The evening activity of the castle continues quietly. Stable workers lead the last horses into their stalls. Soldiers move along the walls as the sun slowly disappears beyond the distant hills. Torches begin to glow along the stone pathways. Their warm light flickers gently against the walls. A short time later, a servant knocks softly at the door. He brings a simple meal: fresh bread, a bowl of warm stew, and a small cup of drink to warm the body after the long ride. You thank him quietly before sitting down at the small table. The food tastes better than many meals eaten along the road. Warm, simple, filling. Outside the window, the sky grows darker with each passing minute. The last light of sunset fades into deep blue. Stars begin appearing one by one above the castle towers. After finishing the meal, you step back to the window again. From here, the countryside stretches far beyond the castle walls. Fields, forests, small villages scattered across the land. Somewhere out there lies the long road you travelled to reach this place. And somewhere beyond those distant hills, other roads continue even farther. The life of a messenger rarely stays in one place for long. Soon another letter will arrive, another destination waiting somewhere across the land. But tonight, the journey is finished. For now, the castle walls offer safety and quiet rest. The wind moves softly across the towers. The courtyard grows silent as the night deepens. You lie down on the wooden bed and pull the thick blanket over your shoulders. The sounds of the castle slowly fade into the calm stillness of evening. and after so many miles on the road, sleep finally comes easily to the tired messenger. Morning arrives quietly inside the castle walls. A pale light slowly enters through the narrow window of the small guest room. Outside, the sky begins to change from deep night blue to the soft grey of early dawn. For a moment, everything remains peaceful and still. The thick stone walls of the castle hold the cool air of the night. Somewhere far below in the courtyard, the first sounds of the new day slowly begin. A stable door creaks open. Horses shift softly in their stalls. The faint clatter of wooden buckets echoes against the stone ground. You wake slowly, feeling the calm stillness of the morning. After so many nights spent along dusty roads and simple inns, the quiet comfort of a solid room feels almost unfamiliar. For a few moments you simply lie there, listening to the distant sounds of the castle waking up. The journey that carried you across forests, fields, rivers and villages has finally come to an end. The letter has been delivered. Your duty has been completed. You sit up slowly and step toward the window. From here the courtyard below looks peaceful in the soft morning light. The first rays of sunlight stretch across the stone walls. Stable workers lead horses into the open yard to brush and feed them. A few guards walk along the high walls above, beginning their morning watch. Beyond the castle gates, the land spreads wide across the horizon. Fields glow softly under the rising sun. A thin mist hangs low above the distant river. The countryside looks calm and endless. You rest your hands on the wooden window frame and take a slow breath of the cool morning air. For many people living in the medieval world, journeys like yours remain invisible. Most villagers rarely travel farther than the nearby towns. Farmers spend their lives working the same fields year after year, but messengers move between these distant places, carrying words that connect them all. Letters travel across miles of land, through forests and valleys, over hills and along narrow roads, each message becoming a small thread tying different parts of the world together. A short time later, a gentle knock sounds at the door. A servant enters with a simple breakfast: fresh bread, a small portion of cheese, and a warm drink prepared in the castle kitchen. You thank him quietly and sit beside the window while eating. The morning light continues growing stronger outside. Soon the courtyard fills with more movement. Workers begin their daily tasks. Soldiers gather near the training yard. The castle slowly returns to the steady rhythm of another day. After finishing the meal, you prepare to leave the room. Your leather pouch rests once again at your side, empty for now, but not for long. A messenger rarely waits long before the next journey begins. When you step back into the main hall below, the steward from yesterday greets you again. He offers a small nod of respect. "The Lord thanks you for your service," he says. "Another letter may soon require delivery." You smile slightly. The road is calling again. Outside, your horse stands ready in the courtyard. The stable worker from yesterday has already brushed his coat and prepared the saddle. The animal looks well rested after the quiet night inside the stable. You approach and gently place your hand on his neck. The castle gates slowly close behind you as your horse steps back onto the open road. The heavy wooden doors meet with a deep sound that echoes across the stone walls. Ahead of you, the countryside stretches wide beneath the bright morning sky. The air feels fresh and cool after the quiet night inside the castle. Mist still lingers across the distant fields, drifting slowly above the ground like a pale blanket. Your horse walks calmly along the road, his hooves striking the earth with the familiar rhythm that has followed you through every mile of the journey. Clip, clop, clip, clop. The castle towers remain visible behind you for a while, their tall stone walls rising proudly above the valley. But with every passing minute they grow smaller in the distance. Soon the road curves gently between the hills, and the castle slowly disappears from view. For a messenger, this moment happens often. One destination fades behind. Another unknown road opens ahead. The leather pouch at your side now feels lighter without a sealed letter inside. But it will not stay empty for long. Messengers rarely remain without purpose. Somewhere, another message will soon be written. Another journey will begin. The morning sun rises higher above the land. Birds glide across the sky. A gentle wind moves through the tall grass beside the road. Everything feels calm and steady. You guide your horse across the same farmland you passed yesterday. But the morning light makes the valley look slightly different now. Farmers have already begun their daily work. In the distance, one man guides a wooden plough through the soil while his ox slowly pulls it forward. Another farmer carries a basket toward a nearby field. Their lives follow the steady rhythm of the land, day after day, season after season. Travellers like you pass through these places only briefly, yet your journeys quietly connect all these distant lives together. The road continues across a small wooden bridge built over a narrow stream. The water flows gently beneath the planks. Sunlight sparkles on its surface as it moves slowly between the stones. Your horse pauses briefly to drink before continuing forward. After crossing the bridge, the road begins to climb once again toward the hills beyond the valley. The path grows quieter as the farmland slowly fades behind you. Tall trees appear ahead along the road. Their branches stretch high into the sky, forming a shaded path beneath their leaves. You guide your horse into the forest. Inside the woodland, the air becomes cooler and quieter. Sunlight filters softly through the leaves above. The ground is covered with fallen branches and patches of moss. Your horse steps carefully along the narrow trail. Every sound feels slightly louder in the stillness of the forest. The rustling of leaves, the snapping of a small twig beneath a hoof, the distant call of a bird somewhere high in the trees. For a messenger, forests can sometimes feel peaceful, but they also require attention. Paths may split without warning. Hidden obstacles may appear along the trail. Yet today the forest feels calm and welcoming. The journey continues without difficulty. After some time, the trees begin to thin again. Light grows brighter ahead as the road slowly returns to open land. Beyond the edge of the forest lies another wide countryside. Rolling hills stretch toward the horizon. Small villages dot the distant fields. The world of the medieval traveller feels vast and endless, each road leading to another town, each town connected by riders who carry the written words of kings, lords, merchants, and scholars. You pause for a moment at the edge of the forest and look across the wide land ahead. The wind moves gently through the grass. Clouds drift slowly across the sky. Your horse shifts patiently beneath you, ready to continue, and once again the messenger rides forward, across fields and hills, across quiet roads that stretch far beyond the horizon, carrying not only letters, but the invisible threads that keep the medieval world connected through words, journeys, and time itself. The road ahead stretches peacefully beneath the open sky. Behind you, the forest slowly fades into the distance. The tall trees become smaller and darker until they finally disappear along the horizon. Now the land opens wide once again. Rolling hills rise and fall gently across the countryside. Patches of farmland appear here and there, separated by narrow dirt paths and wooden fences. Your horse continues forward at a steady pace. Clip, clop, clip, clop. The familiar rhythm follows you like a quiet companion along the road. The morning sun now stands higher in the sky. Its warm light spreads across the fields and hills. Thin clouds drift slowly overhead, casting soft shadows across the land. Travel during the medieval world often moves like this. Long stretches of quiet road. Hours passing with little change except the shifting sky and the gentle movement of the land. For many messengers, these calm moments are part of the journey itself, a time to think, a time to observe the world passing slowly by. As you continue along the road, you notice small signs of life scattered across the countryside. A shepherd stands on a distant hill guiding a small group of sheep across the grass. The animals move slowly together. their white wool glowing softly in the sunlight. Farther along the road, a narrow stream crosses beneath a wooden bridge. The water flows gently between smooth stones, creating a soft and steady sound. Your horse pauses once again to drink before stepping carefully across the bridge. Beyond the stream, the road climbs gently toward another low ridge. From the top of the hill, the land stretches even farther in every direction. The view reveals several small villages scattered across the valley below. Thin trails of smoke rise from the chimneys of houses. People begin their daily work. Farmers move slowly through their fields. A cart travels along a distant path pulled by a pair of strong oxen. Life across the medieval countryside moves with quiet patience. Unlike the fast movement of modern roads, travel here follows the natural pace of animals and weather. Your horse breathes steadily as you guide him down the hill toward the next valley. The road narrows slightly here, weaving gently between patches of farmland and open grass. Soon you begin to notice another traveller approaching from the opposite direction. He rides alone on a dark brown horse. His cloak flutters softly behind him as the wind moves across the land. As the distance between you grows shorter, the rider lifts his hand in greeting, a common gesture between travellers who meet upon the road. You return the greeting with a small nod. For a brief moment the two of you ride side by side. He appears to be a merchant by the look of the small packs tied behind his saddle. "Good road today," he says calmly. You glance toward the clear sky. "Yes. Good weather for travel." The merchant smiles slightly. "Better than last week's storms." You both share a quiet moment of understanding. Weather often decides the comfort or difficulty of medieval journeys. After a short conversation, the merchant guides his horse toward a path leading south across the fields. "Our roads part here," he says. "Safe travels." "And to you," you reply. Soon he disappears along the smaller path, leaving the road quiet once again. You continue forward through the valley. The sun slowly begins to drift toward the western sky as the day moves onward. Shadows grow longer across the fields. The air cools slightly as the afternoon approaches. In the distance, another small village begins to appear along the road. A cluster of wooden houses surrounded by gardens and narrow fences. Smoke rises gently from the chimneys. Children run along the dirt paths between the homes. The peaceful rhythm of village life continues just as it has for generations. You guide your horse closer toward the village road. Perhaps this will be a place to rest for a short time, or perhaps the journey will continue beyond it. For a messenger, each village along the road becomes another small moment in the long story of travel. Another quiet stop along the endless paths that connect the medieval world. And as the afternoon sun slowly moves across the sky, the messenger rides onward once more. The road slowly leads you closer to the small village ahead. From a distance, the houses appear simple and quiet beneath the warm light of the late afternoon sun. Their wooden walls and straw-covered roofs blend naturally with the surrounding fields. Thin lines of smoke rise from the chimneys, drifting gently into the cooling air. Your horse continues forward at a calm pace. The rhythm of hooves becomes softer as the road turns from hard dirt into a smoother path used often by the villagers. Clip, clop, clip, clop. As you approach the first houses, the sounds of village life begin to surround you. Children laugh and run across the open yard near a wooden well. A woman carries a basket filled with vegetables from a nearby garden. Two farmers stand beside a small cart, quietly discussing their work while repairing a broken wheel. Travellers passing through a village often attract quiet attention, not because they are unusual, but because they bring news and stories from distant places. One of the children stops running for a moment and watches you ride past. His curious eyes follow the movement of your horse. You nod gently toward him as you pass. He smiles shyly before returning to his game. The village road curves slightly toward a small central square. Here stands a simple stone well surrounded by wooden benches. A few villagers sit there talking quietly as the day slowly moves toward evening. The sky above begins to change colour. The bright blue of the afternoon softens into warm shades of orange and gold. The sun slowly lowers toward the distant hills. Your horse steps carefully across the quiet square. Nearby, a small blacksmith shop stands beside the road. The faint ringing sound of a hammer striking metal echoes from inside. Sparks briefly glow in the dimming light before fading into the shadows. Villages like this often become natural resting places for travellers. A small inn usually stands somewhere along the road, a place where riders can eat a warm meal and rest before continuing their journey. Soon you notice a wooden sign hanging from a beam beside one of the buildings. The symbol painted on the sign shows a simple cup and loaf of bread, a common symbol used by inns across the medieval countryside. You guide your horse toward the building and climb down from the saddle. The inn itself looks modest but welcoming. Warm light glows from the windows. The smell of cooking food drifts gently through the evening air. Inside, the room feels warm and calm. A small fire burns quietly in the stone hearth. Several travellers sit at wooden tables eating their meals and speaking softly. You find a quiet seat near the wall. A bowl of stew and fresh bread soon arrives from the kitchen. After the long ride across the countryside, the warmth of the meal feels comforting. Outside the window, the evening slowly deepens. The last light of sunset fades behind the hills. The village grows quieter as people return to their homes. Lanterns begin glowing softly along the small paths between houses. After finishing the meal, you step outside once more. The sky above the village is now dark blue, filled with early stars. Your horse rests peacefully beside the inn, tied to a wooden post near the door. He lowers his head toward a small bucket of water placed there by the innkeeper. You look up toward the night sky for a moment. Countless stars shine above the quiet countryside. For travellers in the medieval world, the stars often serve as silent guides along the road. They watch over every journey, every rider, every messenger travelling between distant lands. Tonight the village offers a place to rest, but tomorrow the road will open once again, and the messenger will continue forward across the endless paths of the medieval world. The village remains quiet beneath the final hours of night. Most of the houses are dark. Only a few small lanterns still glow faintly beside doorways and windows. Inside the inn, the fire in the hearth has slowly burned down to a bed of soft red embers. The air is calm and peaceful. Outside, the sky begins to change. A faint grey light slowly appears along the eastern horizon. Morning's approaching. Travellers who spend many days on the road often wake early. The quiet hours before sunrise make the best time to begin a journey. The air is cool. The roads are empty. And the world feels calm and undisturbed. You rise from the small wooden bed inside the room at the inn. For a moment you listen to the silence of the building. Only the soft creaking of old wooden beams can be heard. The other travellers still sleep peacefully in their rooms. You gather your belongings and step quietly down the narrow staircase. The innkeeper is already awake. He stands near the hearth preparing the fire for the morning. When he sees you, he nods politely. "Leaving early," he says in a calm voice. You return the nod. "The road is long." He smiles slightly. "That it is." He offers a small breakfast before you leave. Fresh bread and a warm drink prepared quickly in the kitchen. Simple food, but enough to prepare you for the miles ahead. Outside, the village still rests beneath the soft blue light of early dawn. Your horse stands calmly beside the wooden post where he spent the night. A thin layer of morning mist drifts slowly across the ground. The air feels cool and fresh. You tighten the saddle straps and gently pat the horse's neck. He lifts his head slightly, ready to begin the day's journey. Soon you climb into the saddle once again. The road leading out of the village appears quiet and empty. Most of the villagers have not yet begun their morning work. Only a few distant shapes move slowly through the mist as farmers prepare their fields. Your horse steps forward along the narrow road. Clip, clop, clip, clop. The sound of hooves echoes softly through the still air. The village slowly fades behind you as the road stretches forward across the countryside. Ahead, the sky grows brighter with each passing moment. The sun slowly rises above the distant hills. Golden light spreads across the fields and valleys. Birds begin to appear in the sky, flying across the open land. Another day of travel has begun. For a messenger, each sunrise brings the promise of another road, another destination waiting somewhere beyond the horizon. The journey you began many days ago continues across the medieval world, through villages, through forests, across rivers and hills that stretch farther than the eye can see. The leather pouch at your side may soon carry another sealed letter, another message meant for someone far away. And when that moment comes, the messenger will once again ride across these quiet lands, carrying words that connect distant places and distant lives. But for now, the road remains calm. The morning sun rises slowly into the sky, and the steady rhythm of hooves carries you farther into the peaceful countryside of another medieval day. The morning sun continues rising slowly above the distant hills. Golden light spreads gently across the wide countryside. Fields begin to glow with warm colour as the early mist slowly disappears. Your horse walks steadily along the quiet road. Clip, clop, clip, clop. The familiar rhythm follows you like a calm and steady heartbeat of the journey. Behind you, the small village has already faded into the distance, its wooden houses and narrow paths now hidden beyond the hills. Ahead, the road stretches forward once again, long, quiet, endless. For a messenger in the medieval world, this road never truly ends. Each journey leads naturally into another. Each delivered letter becomes the beginning of a new ride across the land. You guide your horse along a gentle rise in the road. From the top of the hill, the view opens wide across the countryside. Rolling fields spread across the valley below. A distant river moves slowly between the trees like a silver ribbon. Small villages appear here and there, their chimneys sending thin lines of smoke into the clear sky. Somewhere in those villages, people begin their daily work. Farmers guide their animals through the fields. Children help carry water from the wells. Merchants prepare their carts for travel along the same roads you follow. Most of them will never know the full journey of the messages carried across these lands, but their lives are quietly connected through those travelling words. Letters from kings, messages between castles, news from distant towns. Every parchment sealed with wax holds a piece of the world inside it, and messengers carry those pieces from one place to another, through rain, through storms, through silent forests and open valleys. Your horse continues walking calmly beneath you. The wind moves softly through the tall grass beside the road. Birds glide slowly across the bright morning sky. Moments like this often fill the long hours of travel. Peaceful, unhurried, simple. The road curves gently toward another distant line of trees. Beyond them may lie another village, another castle, or perhaps another rider travelling the same endless paths. The life of a messenger is rarely remembered in great stories of history. Kings and battles often fill the pages of books. But between those famous moments, quiet riders travel across the land carrying the words that shape the world. Without them, many decisions would never arrive. Many warnings would never reach their destination. Many friendships between distant lands would slowly fade. The messenger rides quietly between all these places, a silent thread connecting the medieval world together. You pause your horse for a moment at the edge of a small hill. The wind moves gently across the open fields. The road ahead disappears into the soft curve of the land. Somewhere beyond that horizon, another journey waits, another sealed letter, another long ride beneath the changing skies. You take a slow breath of the cool morning air, then gently guide your horse forward again. Clip, clop, clip, clop. The road continues, across hills, across valleys, across centuries of quiet travel. And somewhere, far beyond the distant horizon, the next message waits patiently for the messenger who will carry it forward. The journey goes on, always forward, always along the endless roads of the medieval world.